Hi everyone. So we want to think here about the problem in oligopoly, or when there are n firms. So to do this, we have to think in a little abstract way here, where about what it means to have the industry output capital X. So here, when we think about the industry output, we know that that's equal to the sum of the outputs for each firm. So if we have firm A and firm B, and we have all of them up to the final firm xn, right? That's this capital X is the sum for all of these. So we can think about firm A, B, and all of them through firm n as one firm I. That's the idea of a kind of general firm, firm I. And then firm I has output X superscript I. Now, when we think about that, and the one firm having an output X superscript I, that means when we're thinking about capital X, the total industry output, that's going to be equal to Xi plus some amount, which is all the rest of the industry output, but not the output of firm I. Now, the way that we abbreviate that is by talking about capital X minus I. So capital X minus I is the output of all firms. Okay, so that's the output of all firms except firm I. Okay, so that's a very important way that we're going to be thinking about this, right? Because firm I is going to be making a decision about its output based on the total output of other firms in the industry. So that total output of all other firms in the industry is going to be this X superscript minus I. Now, keeping that in mind, what do we know? We know that our P as a function of X, P as the price as a function of the total output in the industry, is still going to be equal to P bar minus beta X. So that's the total output in the industry. So then how does firm I think about this? Well, it thinks about that in terms of P bar minus beta times Xi minus beta times X minus I. So it's what's going on here for firm I, but also then the effects of all other firms on the price. Because the output of firm I decreases the price, but the output of all other firms also decreases the price. Now, keeping that in mind, what can we do? We can go through the same process that we've gone through previously in terms of thinking about what the total revenue and total costs are of the firm in order to construct the profit for the firm. So the profit for firm I, as a function of Xi and X minus I, is going to be equal to price times Xi minus costs of Xi. And we're going to assume that once more costs are constant and the marginal costs are constant equal to average costs. Now, P over here, what do we know? That's going to be exactly what we have up here. So we can substitute it in. And so we get P bar minus beta X super I minus beta capital X minus I. Remember, that is the output of all other firms and then the output of firm I. And that's all multiplied by Xi minus Cxi. Okay, excellent. So, what's our next step? If this is the profit for firm I, what do we have to do? We have to take this thing, we're going to have to differentiate it with respect to X. So just a few things to note here. If we wanted to first multiply this out, we're going to have P bar X super I minus beta X super I all squared minus beta X I capital X minus I minus Cxi. So that's our full profit function here. then what do we want to do? We want to differentiate this thing partially with respect to x super I, because we want to find the maximum profit for firm I. And that is going to give us p bar minus 2 beta xi minus beta x minus I minus c. So this is what we have here in terms of what is being produced in this industry. Now, when we look at this, what is that going to leave us with? Well, we have to know that that's going to be equal to 0 when we impose our first order conditions. So when we impose that first order condition, we can now find the best response function for firm I. And what do we do there? Well, we take 2 beta xi to the other side. What do we get then? We get 2 beta x super I equal to p bar minus c minus beta x minus I. Now what do we have to do? We divide through by 2 beta. So then xi as a response to x minus I is equal to p bar minus c all over 2 beta minus 1/2 x not I. Okay, or x minus I. So what we're seeing here is that the best response for firm I to the output of all other firms is going to have a component which is very similar to what we saw previously with just 2 firms. So this first term should be familiar, p minus c over 2 beta. But then what are we seeing over here in this second term on the right-hand side? We're seeing we subtract from that minus 1/2, okay, times x to the minus I. So that's the output of all other firms. So the basic intuition here, which we're going to see, is that as the output of all other firms increases, then what's going to happen? The output, or the best response for firm I, is going to be lower. Okay, so as capital X minus I goes up, little xi, its response to the output of all other firms is going to go down. And that is firm I's best response function.